Welcome to Think Tank Television. I'm your host, Erin Johnson, and today we are happy to have here with us our first guest from our very first show, a Whitman Town Selectman Justin Evans. Thank you for being
Erin.
here. Hi.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. I can't believe it's been over a year since we last saw you. At that time, you were thinking about running for selectman, and you did, and you won. So what has your first year been like?
It's been a crazy year. Obviously, yeah, we're doing this interview over Zoom, so it didn't go exactly as I expected. But we were able to accomplish a lot of the things that I'd set out to do. The budget override subcommittee took off right when I was elected. I was appointed to that committee. We looked at every part of the budget, scrimped and saved, and was able to avoid an override at least this past year. We'll see going forward how we can do. And then some unexpected things happened. We had obviously the regional amendment agreement took off. It was made for a difficult school budget this year. But in the end, we were able to find a compromise with the town of Hanson and move both towns forward.
Yeah, it didn't look like there was going to be a compromise for a while, did it? It really went slow for a while.
Yeah, it really came down to the wire.
Okay, so today I wanted to talk about the upcoming elections. We have a primary coming up in September, and that's September, but I want to start way back in the spring. Like I said, I know you're active in the Democratic Party now, right?
Yeah, I've been an active member of the Democratic Town Committee for must be 3 years now.
Oh, that's great. I was wondering, what was that like because you were supposed to have a caucus, right? Then you were supposed to have a convention. What happened with all that stuff?
Yeah, so it was a little unusual this year. Obviously, COVID hit in early March. Whitman had planned their caucus to send members of our town committee to the state convention. It was going to happen, I think, in May. But our caucus was set for, I think, the week after schools closed and everybody kind of shut down. So it made for an interesting year. I'm also a member of the South Shore Young Democrats, so I attended a couple of in-person caucuses and saw other towns appointing their delegation to go to the state convention, which eventually ended up being canceled outright and moving to I think it ended up being a compromise between the two major candidates for U.S. Senate.
Okay, so that was pretty interesting. Yeah, so I want to talk about what do you think? I didn't really understand that the convention, this is about the national convention, the National Democratic Convention. I didn't really understand how they did that. Did you? I know you put on Facebook that you were happy to affect the 113 delegates that went, but I didn't really understand what that meant.
So it's a little bit of an unusual process. If we want to really go into it, the history. So back in, I think it was Andrew Jackson's reelection was the first Democratic National Convention. That was how they appointed, how the parties decided who was going to run for president that year. And over the last couple of 100 years, that process has evolved to include primaries. It still included up until the 70s, the backroom deals, party deciding who gets to be the nominee. But at least in, since the 70s, it's been usually state primaries. The winners of the primaries decide how many delegates each candidate gets. Those delegates are chosen by the members of the campaign of those candidates, and they all get together at a national convention to do the formal nominating process, although the elections and state primaries has already taken place and really decided the outcome. So this year I was actually selected as a delegate for one of the candidates, which made for a really interesting process, especially because I was looking forward to going to Milwaukee. Didn't end up happening. We did an online PDF ballot, but
I'm glad you I'm glad you had that chance. It is too bad it didn't work out, but I'm glad you were appointed to that, elected to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the primary coming up, how do you think mail-in voting is doing or is going to do?
So mail-in voting we did in Whitman for the town election back in, was that June? Yeah. Back in June, we did mail-in voting for the first time for a town election. And I thought that went pretty well. We actually had a higher than usual turnout. I think it was a little smaller than the school override turnout from a couple of years ago. But if that's our high water mark, we came pretty close with just a a regular annual town election.
Good.
So it made for a pretty interesting test case doing it on a smaller town election. And, I knew, especially for the town election, I knew everybody that was running. I knew how I was going to vote. But some of the feedback that I got from people who requested mail-in ballots was that it was really nice to have your ballot on your kitchen table and then open your laptop and look up all the candidates. They're the most informed electorate we've had in probably a couple of years. And I've heard some of that same feedback for the state primaries going on now.
Oh, that's good to know. It's good to know people take more time and put more thought into it. Yeah. So how do you, and the presidential election too, do you have any favorite outcomes for the next two elections?
So, yeah, putting me on the spot there. For the state primary is early voting is going on now. To really timestamp this interview, in-person early voting is going to happen next week, and then the actual election day will be on September 1st. For that, I think that all the candidates running are going to do a phenomenal job. This is where the state parties each have their own ballot to be on the general election in November. Mm-hmm. I did actually endorse a candidate the first time as an elected official. I've been able to do that for the U.S. Senate race, but depending on when this comes out, I may not name that candidate because it could go either way.
Okay, good answer. Okay.
And then in the November election, obviously, I'm an active member of the Democratic Party. I'll be supporting Joe Biden.
Okay, that's good to hear. So how about being a selectman? Are you considering running for that again? When is your term up for this one?
My term, I was elected in 2019. It'll be up in 2022.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm not even halfway through it, but I'm having a good time so far in an unusual year.
Good, that sounds great. Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yes. So you brought up the some of the voting opportunities that we have coming up. So at least for the by the time this airs, there may not be a lot of time left to vote early for the September 1st election, but do vote for the September 1st election. Polling, the town hall will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day. If you don't cast your ballot ahead of time. For the November 3rd election, there will be even more ample opportunities to vote due to a combination of the state legislature trying to increase turnout by expanding early voting opportunities and some changes due to COVID-19 increasing early vote by mail. There's really no excuse not to vote this year. So for the November 3rd election, on election day, the town hall is going to be open the same, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For the 2 weeks prior, you can early vote in person. It'll be regular town hall hours plus, I haven't confirmed this, but the town clerk usually adds Friday and maybe one Saturday hours to increase availability of voting. That's scheduled for October 17th to the 30th is the state window. Ours will probably be the 19th, that Monday through the 30th. But you can also vote absentee with an excuse. You can absentee vote in person or absentee vote by mail. Or you can vote early by mail with the ballot request forms that have already been mailed out or are available on the Secretary of State's website. And then when you want to return that ballot, you can either put it in the mail or there's a drop box next to the town hall. If you're looking at the front from South Ave, it's on the right near the ramp. If you're coming from the park, go through the parking lot and it's right there next to the ramp and the staircase.
Okay, thanks. That was a lot of good information. It's helpful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the voter participation. Do you think it'll be greater because people can vote through the mail, or because I know there are people who say, I don't want to vote through the mail. I want to just go to town hall like I always do, And I don't know that everybody is certain that if you put it in the mail, it will get counted as a vote. But do you think more people will do it? There'll be more participation?
I hope there'll be more participation. Whitman usually for presidential elections has pretty high turnout. But there's no reason not to see it above 80 or 90% for something that's going to be this well advertised in a year that most of us are at home watching it on TV anyway.
At this point, COVID has you at home. What else can you do but vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's probably a good time to bring up. So beyond just the presidential election, there will be a couple of other things on the November ballot. there'll be candidates all the way down the ticket. You know, if you don't know what a county commissioner does, now's a good time to learn. But there's also going to be 2 state ballot questions and 1 local ballot question on the end of that. So those are things that you'll want to research between now and November 3rd. For the state ballot questions, it is the an update to the right to repair law for motor vehicles. I don't have a ton of information on that one, so I've got to do some more research. There's also a question about ranked choice voting, which Maine implemented a couple of years ago. It's something that is interesting. I think the intent is to enable more third-party or independent candidates to have a shot at winning, because you can rank your options. You know, I want candidate A, B, then C, and if candidate C has the fewest votes, they take those away and go to your second choice. So the winner of of a ranked choice election has to have 50% of the vote.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to do it.
And then here in Whitman, we are going to have a ballot question about the Community Preservation Act. Look for a lot more information about that forthcoming, but this has been an initiative that I've been pushing since I was on the Finance Committee, so I'm glad to see it get through town meeting and finally move to the ballot. You know, I'll be talking about different types of projects that we can fund with the CPA, but a broad scope of that is you know, recreation and open space projects, housing related expenses. I know that Easton has been able to abate some taxes for families hit hard by COVID, using that housing money. So it's creative uses. A couple of towns around us usually do Habitat for Humanity type projects. And then any historic uses. So we've got, you know, an armory, we've got a historic town hall, a 100-year-old fire station, a historic downtown, things that could use some upkeep. So the CPA revenue, it's a surtax, so it's a tax on the tax. You know, a small percentage of the average homeowner, if they don't qualify for exemptions, would pay about $30 to $40 a year on this. But it goes to some really good uses, and then the state matches more money. So it's an opportunity for us to get free money by putting in a little ourselves. So that is an initiative that I'm going to be talking a lot about in the next couple of months.
Sounds great. It sounds great to hear somebody who's well informed and so certain that good things are going to happen. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so right now. This is yep. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks so much for being here, Justin. I can't wait to have you on again. Thanks so much.
Hopefully we can meet in person again soon.
Oh, hopefully, yeah. And thanks to everybody in Whitman Hanson for watching. Good night.